My name's Eli, and I'm going to teach you about how the supply and demand curve acts. But doesn't feel right in here. Hold on. You're in a dorm room. We have to relate. Anyway, supply and demand are very important. They influence pretty much everything in the intro of economics. And when you get into a macro class, you'll need to understand supply and demand because further models use the same basic ideas and principles such as the aggregate supply and demand. But that's for a later date. Now let me explain what we're about to go through. I'm not going to go over why things shift. I might mention it a little bit, but there's one thing that I've noticed out of my 2 economic classes. Both of my professors have said to everyone in the room, if you don't practice the graphs, then you're not going to get it. That is entirely true. So my purpose is to get the intimidation factor out of those graphs, show you how they function, and then when you learn the details about it, you won't be scared of it. You have to practice these graphs. You absolutely have to. So with that, we'll get right into it. So let's get our hands dirty here. I'm going to draw the graph for you. And again, I'm not explaining 100% what causes these graphs to shift or the curves to shift, the forces behind it. I'm trying to get you to learn the fundamental, what you need to practice, what you need to write down, and know where the curves are going to go if something happens in the simplest terms possible. Alright, I've had 2 economics classes. Both of my professors have said the exact same thing. Learn how to draw the graphs. Practice the graphs. This is a very accurate statement. So, let's start. I remembered it in my first class as a bow and arrow. This is the supply and demand curve. So, there's your string, there's your bow, there's your arrow. That is the whole graph right there. We just haven't done the little dressings, so let's do that. We have our supply, we have our demand, give it a prime for organization purposes and not getting marked off on the test. And then, of course, our naturally occurring equilibrium when companies try to sell stuff at a certain price and people get pissed and so they meet in the middle. So, this is your monies, this is your quantities, and we're good to go. We'll start with demand since everybody is simple with it. So say that you know the force that changes demand, and demand has gone up in this particular market. So if demand goes up, it's pretty natural to assume that this line right here is going to go up or out in a natural fashion, which you would be correct. Your D2, your demand 2, is going to go out this way, right? Now, if demand goes down, it's going to go in. It's going to go left, if you will. I prefer in and out. Bam. And then you have your D3. Of course, with both of these, if you'll notice, your equilibrium is going to change. Eventually, all things held constant, your equilibrium is going to change. So remember, demand. If demand goes up, the demand is going to go that way. It's going to go out. It's going to go right. It's going to go away. If demand goes down, then it will go in. It will go left, and everything, of course, well, even out equilibrium-wise. So now, we're going to go to supply, which is basically the same thing. Guys, I know this is fast talking. I know that it seems like there's not much to it, but once you start learning what goes behind this stuff in your principles class, then you're going to be like, oh man, I know what way the graph goes before I ever learned any of this stuff. So, it will be natural, just as natural as addition and subtraction. So again, draw your bow and arrow, done. Man, you can save some time on a test by practicing this, I swear. Alright. Give ourselves equilibrium. Alright, so let's say supply increased. Now, what a lot of students naturally feel like doing is because it increases, then it must go up, right? Well, you're not wrong. Supply goes up because of an increase. But up is down. Oh, hell. Up is down. If supply increases, it goes out. Which is why it's important to remember the words in and out. You have your second supply that increased by going out. Okay? Looks weird, but just understand that little trick. So of course, if supply decreases, then it's going to go here. Now again, there's a lot of forces that do this, and I'm not going to go into that because that's a lot of detail for a short video. But if you understand that supply goes up, it goes to the right, and when it goes down, it goes to the left, and the same with demand. It's important to remember that. It really is. Remember, guys, you have to practice this graph.